sussing how you luck, going hard in the paint, and that's how you assert dominance.
Hey, what's up guys, it's SirTagCR, and today we're going to be talking about tomorrow's new balance changes. So first off, let's talk about the Royale Ghost. It gets a 6% damage nerf, its invisibility delays from 0.7 seconds to 1.2 seconds, and then its hit speed is also nerfed from 1.7 seconds to 1.8 seconds. So essentially it's going to hit slower, it's going to do less damage, and it's going to be visible for a longer period of time. I completely agree with this nerf. I think it was a busted card and it needed to get balanced. Whenever you have a meta-defining card like the Royale Ghost in a deck, and it gets nerfed, the entire meta is going to shift. That really means that there's going to be less of a need for Knight, Guards, and then also Ice Golem. There's not going to be as much of a need for Royale Ghost counters because Royale Ghost isn't going to be as powerful and it's not going to be as prevalent. After the Royale Ghost gets nerfed, you're not going to see it in as many control decks as it is right now, simply because it's not going to be that great on its own. To get full utility out of the Royale Ghost, I feel like it's going to have to be behind a tank, so I expect if it is used, it's going to be in a Golem deck, a Giant deck, or maybe even a Lava Hound deck. If you think of it like the Night Witch, when the Night Witch was OP, you saw it in every single deck in the game, and then the Night Witch really found its niche in the Golem and tank decks. So next on the list, we have the Zappies, and I feel like they just don't do enough damage to justify their 4 elixir, despite the buff that increases their versatility, allowing them to target air and ground units now. I feel like they're just too easily taken out by a fireball, and I feel like they need a stats buff to justify their 4 elixir cost. For their damage, they literally do tickle units, guys. It's pathetic. For comparison purposes, the flying machine costs 4 elixir and it dies the fireball, but it can't get hit by ground, it has the range of a musketeer, and it can snipe huts and it has incredible utility. Whereas the Zappies just have none of that. So next, the Hunter's range was decreased from 5 to 4, the bullet spread is slightly smaller, projectile range remains 6.5, and I really think it's going to be OP and meta defining. I feel like the Hunter is going to be one of the best cards in the game then. And honestly guys, it was never a bad card, it just took a while for people to figure out its utility. For instance, if we go to deck slot number 4, this deck is so OP at the moment, and I was getting 12 wins left and right with it, and our entire Nova team lost to Tribe. Tribe just continuously used this deck, we didn't know it was that good, and they showed us how great it was. So let's go back to the discussion about the statistics of the Hunter. The Hunter's range really doesn't matter, so even though its range got decreased from 5 to 4, it really wasn't going to do too much damage at the range of 5, and you weren't even looking to use it at the range of 5. The Hunter has a shotgun, and you want it to be up close and personal with any unit it's shooting, so all the bullets get condensed and do optimal damage to their target. So since the bullet spread is slightly smaller now, it's going to reliably do more damage, and even though it got a nerf for the range doesn't matter because it really wasn't meant to be a ranged unit. Essentially, the range nerf was pretty negligible because it won't affect the card, but the radius spread being smaller is significant and it will provide a DPS buff to an already strong card in the meta. I think that the meta will now shift around the Hunter, and most decks will revolve around what is good and what is bad against Hunter. I feel like the Hunter is going to be in almost every single deck in the game and severely limit how many people can run tank decks. So next, let's talk about the Night Witch. I think it's a pretty insignificant change, but the initial bats will spawn a little bit faster. It might help defending against bridge spam, but it won't be significant in any other interaction. Imagine you place it behind a golem at the start, the bats spawn a little bit faster, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. So the next change was the nerf to bats. Their hit speed was increased from 1 second to 1.1 second. So their DPS is definitely affected, so putting it down at the bridge to stop a mini P.E.K.K.A or a Prince or some bridge spam might not be as reliable as it used to be. So it's going to be interesting for me to see those interactions and then formulate my opinion on bats by that. However, I definitely still think they're going to be really strong in the meta still because they're inherently a Zap bait deck. Inferno Dragon, Skeleton Barrel, Goblin Gang, Goblins, those cards really weren't touched, and bats synergize exceptionally well with those cards. So I feel like bats will always be in the meta as long as Inferno Dragon, Skeleton Barrel, and other Zap bait cards are still prevalent. The one thing that I really do like about this change is they never changed the number of the bats back to 4. I like how they changed the statistics. Hopefully they do the same to skeletons, make skeletons 4, and then nerf their attack speed or something to make skeletons a little bit better at distracting. So the next change was a 5% hit points buff to Lava Hound. Lava Hound's pretty useless on its own, so it needs to have support units like Lumberjack, Miner, or Balloon. So the Lava Hound will tank more for those units now. So you guys have to put this in perspective. Lava Hound has a lot of HP, so a 5% buff is going to be 150 more HP at tournament standard. That's essentially equivalent to another Musketeer shot. That's going to be kind of big in a lot of interactions, and I think it's going to benefit Lava Hound Balloon players, Lava Hound Miner players. We might even see some Lava Hound Lumberjack players in the future. So unfortunately guys, I have to be the bearer of bad news and let you know that Spear Goblin Huts are still going to be prevalent in the meta. The Goblin Hut received a spawn speed nerf from 4.9 seconds to 5 seconds, and that's equating to only 1 less Spear Goblin being spawned. Essentially, that's pretty laughable, and you guys can already figure it out. Spear Goblin Hunt will still stay alive for a long time. Spells like Fireball and Poison just don't decrease the lifetime enough for me. So unfortunately, the Spear Goblin Hunt will stay in the meta until they decide to nerf it. Hopefully next patch. I'm praying, guys. I really am. Mini P.E.K.K.A and Lumberjack hit points were increased by 7% each. I really don't think that the Mini P.E.K.K.A is going to be used too often, but I feel like the Lumberjack usage rate is going to increase tenfold. Both the Mini P.E.K.K.A and the Lumberjack are going to be competing for deck slots, and I feel like the Lumberjack is just more reliable. It cleans up swarm units, it has the added effect of rage, and it's overall a lot faster than the Mini P.E.K.K.A. I think that both of these cards will increase the popularity of guards in general, and I think they're going to be pretty good for the meta. If there's going to be less air in the meta, I can definitely see a Lumberjack Lava Hound deck coming out of the woodwork, and I think that would be pretty strong. And predominantly, Lumberjack and Mini P.E.K.K.A function best with tank decks or bridge spam decks. So if they're going to be used, I expect them to mostly be seen in those decks. However, I really think that the Lumberjack's a little bit more versatile, so it could be replacing Royal Ghost in a lot of decks. So lastly, guys, let's talk about the Mortar Change. The Mortar's minimum range was changed from 4.5 to 3.5. This is going to be a pretty significant change, and it's going to be a nerf to Mortar. Essentially, by decreasing the minimum range, the Mortar is able to see and shoot units closer to it. Before, it would lose targeting to them and lock onto your tower or another unit. Now it will shoot them for a longer period of time as the units get closer to the Mortar. It's mostly going to be seen as a nerf since it's usually preferred to get that last tower damage with that Mortar shot instead of it locking onto other units. As a frame of reference, an Executioner has a range of 4.5. The Mortar never used to lock onto the Executioner while the Executioner was shooting it. It did tower damage instead. The Mortar would lock onto the tower, you would collect hits while the Executioner was chipping away on it. Now it will lock onto the Executioner, target the Executioner instead of the tower, so you will not be getting that valuable tower damage. Overall, I really feel like Spear Goblin and Hunter decks are going to be the best decks and dominate this meta. I feel that tank decks are just going to get DPS down way too fast by the Hunter, and they're not going to be a reliable source of damage. I feel that control decks incorporating the Hunter are going to rise to the top, so you're going to be seeing a lot of log bait or zap bait, graveyard decks, and miner decks. Those decks are going to have much more reliable sources of damage, and they're not going to get stopped in their tracks by a Hunter. And unfortunately, we're still going to see that combination of Mega Knight, Spear Goblin Hunt, Inferno Dragon, Bats, and Skeleton Barrel, because Zap Bait really did not receive that big of a nerf. Essentially, Royal Ghost is going to fall out of the meta, Hunter will take its place, and people will recognize the true power of the Hunter, and Spear Goblin Hunt's going to stay the same. And that's actually where we're going to end today's video, guys. Make sure to let me know down below in the comments section, did you enjoy this type of video? Was this something that you guys want to see in the future? Love it or hate it, guys, make sure to let me know down below. I take criticism pretty well, and I really always want to improve my content. I want to be producing the things that you guys want to see the most. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to sauce me a fat thumbs up. As always, thanks for watching and thanks for chilling with me. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.